It's one of the darkest jokes in economic history. Tragedy may kill millions, but it almost never kills opportunity. The Black Death was no exception. Between 1347 and 1351, the plague tore through Europe and North Africa with a brutality humanity had never experienced before. Entire towns vanished. Families were erased from memory. Nearly half of Europe's population simply disappeared. But beneath this unimaginable loss, something else was happening quietly, almost invisibly. Wealth was being redistributed on a scale that makes modern recessions look small by comparison. Old elites were collapsing, new fortunes were forming, and some of the most powerful dynasties in European history were being born out of catastrophe. It sounds almost obscene to say it, that during a pandemic which killed tens of millions, certain families walked away richer than ever. But this is the uncomfortable pattern of economic history. When a system breaks, someone always picks up the pieces. And the Black Death didn't just break systems, it shattered them. The plague didn't only kill peasants, merchants, and craftsmen. It killed heirs. It wiped out landowners. It erased banking competitors. It ended noble bloodlines that had ruled for centuries. And when wealth loses its owners, new owners step forward. Not because they're villains, but because in a broken world, ambition becomes irresistible. To understand who actually got rich during the Black Death, you have to picture Europe at its most vulnerable moment. Ships arrived in Genoa, carrying dead sailors. Monks wrote that no church bells rang, because there was no one left to ring them. Entire regions emptied almost overnight. Most documentaries stop there. This is where our story begins. Because the economic impact of the plague wasn't temporary, it was structural. The Black Death didn't just take lives. It took hierarchy with it. Labor shortages shattered the foundations of feudalism. Abandoned lands created massive property vacuums. Merchant networks collapsed and had to be rebuilt. Banks were wiped out by unpaid debts, leaving holes in the financial system. And through every one of those cracks, new winners emerged. The real question isn't did people get rich? It's who and how. To answer that, we need to follow a trail history often ignores inheritance, consolidation, quiet power shifts, and opportunity in a world where half of Europe's competitors no longer existed. Some of the most famous names in European history owe their rise to that vacuum. Nowhere is this clearer than Florence. By the late 14th century, Florence had become a city of survivors. Competitors were gone, trade networks had collapsed, banking houses struggled just to stay alive. And into that vacuum stepped a man named Giovanni de' Medici. Not a noble, not a titan, just a very sharp banker with perfect timing. In 1397, shortly after another wave of plague destabilized Florence's financial system, Giovanni founded the Medici Bank. Many of the city's dominant banking families had lost heirs, partners, or entire branches of their operations. The Bardi and Peruzzi, once Europe's financial giants, were shadows of their former selves. Giovanni filled the gap. The Medici secured lucrative contracts, including managing the papacy's finances, an opportunity that likely wouldn't have existed if the plague hadn't wiped out rivals. And it wasn't just about banking. With fewer nobles and merchants left to compete for influence, the Medici stepped into positions of economic and civic power almost by default. Without the plague, they might have remained a successful Florentine family. Instead, they bankrolled the Renaissance, produced popes, ruled Tuscany, and helped shape modern finance. You could argue carefully that Michelangelo's career was partially born from the Black Death. Florence wasn't unique. In Milan, the Visconti family didn't just survive the plague, they exploited the power vacuum it created. Noble families died without heirs at staggering rates. Their lands were absorbed by whoever moved fastest. The Visconti were masters of that game. Bernabo Visconti expanded aggressively. His successor, Gian Galeazzo Visconti, used strategic marriages and demographic chaos to consolidate enough power to be crowned the first Duke of Milan in 1395. In another era, that would have taken centuries of war. After the Black Death, it took a generation. Across the Channel, England saw the rise of an entirely new class, the upwardly mobile gentry. Families like the Pastons, once modest landowners, acquired estates at astonishing discounts as neighboring families died without heirs. Over generations, they became political power brokers. The Nevilles, central figures in the Wars of the Roses, expanded their wealth during plague-induced vacancies. The Stanleys, future kingmakers, rose the same way. The deeper you look, the clearer the pattern becomes. Wherever death created a vacuum, someone stepped in. Sometimes it was noble houses, sometimes merchant dynasties, sometimes institutions that didn't worry about heirs at all. Which brings us to the church. Monasteries and religious orders became some of Europe's largest landowners after the plague, not because they bought land, but because it was given to them. Families died out. Nobles sought salvation. Estates were donated in exchange for prayers. In an age of mass death, selling eternity was excellent business. The church absorbed land quietly, steadily, and legally, becoming one of the most powerful economic forces in post-plague Europe. And then there were the merchants of the north. The Hanseatic League, a network of trading cities from Lübeck to Riga to Bruges, turned chaos into opportunity. While others collapsed, Hanseatic merchants expanded fleets, secured monopolies on grain, timber, and salt, and sold scarcity at profit. In a Europe that could no longer produce enough, they supplied survival. Even ordinary people benefited briefly. Labor shortages gave surviving workers unprecedented leverage. Wages rose. Serfs walked away from obligations. Guilds opened. Apprentices became masters early. It wasn't equality, but it was mobility. And then the pattern repeated. Because what happened in the 14th century isn't unique. It's the blueprint of crisis economics. In 2008, distressed debt investors emerged stronger than ever. During COVID, billionaire wealth surged while small businesses disappeared. The tools change. The mechanism doesn't. Crises don't erase wealth. They move it. The Black Death didn't end Europe. It reshuffled power. And if you don't understand how wealth behaves in catastrophe, you'll never understand how power is built. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.